Family, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's 8 o'clock. You know what that means, right? It's time to talk. And boy, oh boy, do we got a show for you today. But first and foremost, let me give a big shout out to Incision. If you haven't been on their website, please definitely go to their website, incision.care. Request your free demo today and make sure you let them know that Time to Talk sent you. You saw the video, RST Automation. Again, another wonderful sponsor. Go to their show, go to their site as well. Request a demo so that you can see a lot of these new innovations that are coming to your sterile processing industry to help you become more efficient, give you more quality, and you're ahead of the innovation game. These are things that are game changers to departments. Just standardization of education alone that we talk about all the time is one of those that if everybody's doing it correctly, doing it the same way, then it's easier to pinpoint where people struggle at. RST Automation is giving you AI in an advanced form that helps your department move in those same directions where you're moving more efficiently. Again, I just talked about it, efficiently, more quality, and you're getting into the AI, the innovation groove ahead of your time. Today, after this whole season, we've talked about, efficiency, quality, and innovation. All of those things do impact departments. We get it. But the biggest impact to departments are the people. So today I wanted to take a time out and just talk to somebody who I know after talking to for these years and, getting to know that went through the same type of challenges. I won't even say same type of challenges. What I'll say is persevered through the early years, moved his way up to the ranks of where he's at now. And I'm going to let him tell you about that journey, but just what it can be for a regular tech. I know that when we talk challenges, we talk about, it's one of those jobs where it's a thankless job. We hear everybody say that all the time, right? It's a thankless job. We hear that, people describe us as non-revenue bearing. So, it's not an importance placed on us in sterile processing. And I do get it. But what about that limited recognition? What about the lack of career advancement opportunities in certain facilities? What about those certification requirements? Needless to say, it's a high stress environment, right? Short staffing. The key thing that I get from that is people always say they want us to do more with less because the surgeries don't stop just because you're short staffed. Leadership challenges. How many people have been at facilities and the leadership changes constantly or there's no leadership at all? How do you keep up with regulations? How do you keep yourself in that, in that learning mind state that when regulations change, if an IFU has changed, you're keeping yourself abreast of what actually benefits you in the department. And what about the physical demands? How do we navigate all of those things? For some people, they don't. They simply change careers. There are some of us who are career sterile processing people. And we've seen it all. We've been through it all, consistently learning new things or constantly learning new things, but we've been through the gambits. I just was recently at a show that I spoke at a couple of weeks ago, and I saw an electronic boy dick. And to myself, I said, remembering where we came from to now having that, it is definitely a changing industry. And I've been through those gambits. I've having to do sterile processing in Afghanistan, where I had to pour water in the back of the sterilizer to make my steam in a field hospital. So actually seeing that and being a part of that, I know where we came from to where we're at now. And it's only going to improve and keep going forward. So those people who feel like they're struggling, to those people who feel like there's nowhere for them to go, this is the show for you, because I want you to hear it firsthand from somebody who's actually been through it, seen it, still in it, and he's going to share some of the tips of how he did it. I see Miss Green Golden. Welcome, Sharon. Welcome. And I just want you to hear it firsthand from somebody who's actually been in the shoes where you are currently at and help you get to that next level. So, family, without further ado, can I introduce you to our guy, the fellow himself, Ebow?
Hello, everybody. How's everybody tonight?
How are you, sir? How are you, sir?
I am doing marvelous. Thank you for having me here on your show, Time to Talk tonight, so we can have a conversation with our family. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for
definitely,
having
definitely.
me.
Uh, first and foremost, like I do when I'm here, for people who don't know Ebow, give them a little bit about Ebow because we're gonna get in depth about Ebow, but let them know what Ebow is and what Ebow has going on right now.
Also, for those who do not know Ebo, Ebo is Ebo. Ebo is always gonna be Ebo. So I have been in the industry compared to others. I'm basically a baby in the industry, but I started just like most of us in the industry from our technician level and work my way all the way up to the director role that I'm currently and this is not just the end, we're just in the middle. Our goal is to go all the way to the top. I realized even at the director level, you cannot really enact as much changes as you want. You got to get your seat at the bigger table. That is where you can actually enact one of those changes. So this is just a pit stop. We always moving up.
Okay, okay. So, as y'all heard, he started out as a technician and he's now at the pit stop to the next thing, and we're gonna get into that. Carl, welcome. I see you here. Welcome for being here, Carl. I appreciate you. Um, I ask this question when I'm at my shows and I'm talking to people. When did Ebo see sterile processing as his career? I'm saying it's a career at this point. When did Ebo see sterile processing as his career?
Just like every other person, initially this wasn't a career, this was a job.
Okay,
um,
okay.
and how I fell into the role, if you've ever been a surgical tech, you know how it is in the OR. One day a surgeon said something to me, and we always blame our CSP team members. So I went down there to CSP and I never left CSP. But in my course of being in CSP, I had some great leaders and I had some not great leaders. And I made the point to be the leader that I wanted for others. So it was at that moment as a Tech One that is where I decided, okay, we can make changes here, and that is where it became a career. So that was the beginning story of Ebo, and it wasn't
Okay.
even a full time at the hospital. I was a contractor for a staffing agency doing MISs, minimal
Okay.
invasive surgical services. So
Yes.
that's how it started.
I saw Sharon said hello. So she's speaking out. Sharon Green Gold is here seeing you. Um,
Hi, Miss Sharon. Nice meeting you at Amy this week.
so how difficult was it? We're gonna go there. How difficult was it going from the OR to sterile processing? That transition, I mean, like I get upstairs, you're more, I would say it's more systematic. You're doing the surgery, everything is more methodical to going downstairs where you're like, wait, there's different different areas you got to go in. How was that transition?
So, to me, humble brag, it wasn't too difficult because I was a smart learner. But the process involved is a completely different skill set.
Okay.
Um, for those of us that haven't really been in stir processing, some of people refer to us as a glorified dishwashers, but no, it's more than work washing dishes. In the content alone, you got to know your chemistries, your dilution rate, and all that. You got to If you don't have cue cards on your sink, you got to know the amount of time you got to soak your instrument for per the IFU and all that. And that is just decontam. Then you got to go to the assembly, you test on your scissors. In the OR, I didn't really test my scissors, but in CS, I realized that we need to test the scissors, and we cannot use the same testing material. We have different testing materials for different types of instrumentation. So it was a learning curve, but it wasn't a steep learning curve for me. I was lucky enough to know my instruments. That was my only saving grace, but I had to relearn all the processes from decontam to assembly to packaging to sterilization and heck even to sterile storage, because we cannot just store our products anyhow. We
Right.
cannot just stack stuff on top of the other. For example, the rigid container on the wrap tray. No, that's a no-no. In the OR, I did not know that. And I challenge everybody to walk through their OR. If they store items up in the OR, you will see at least one rigid container on a wrapped item.
I
I didn't
mean,
know that in the OR.
so that's the part where I want to, not want to focus on a lot, but I want to get that part. So from being in the OR, where everything was the fault of the people downstairs, to actually being downstairs, and now you're getting that call that you're the stupid person downstairs. So how is that? Because you were in that group upstairs that, hey, SPD was to blame, and now you're at stage one, a baby in the game, and you're in SPD, and those phone calls are now they talking about me now. Like, how did that make you feel?
I did not get those phone calls personally, so I don't really care less. But as I grow into leadership role and we started getting those calls, even when my supervisor gets those calls, I just go out. Okay, I showed my technicians and my supervisor, I'll just go take the brunt. One thing about me is I don't take any disrespect from anybody, no matter who you are. If you're being disrespectful, I will let you know and I'll shut up. And so I have that honest conversation with them. Whenever we have to admit fault, I'm not too big to admit fault. If we're wrong, we're wrong. So that has always been my approach. It's all about customer service, first of all. Customer service, mitigate the situation, make sure that the OR has everything that they need for the patient. At the end of the day, it's not about CSP, it's not about OR, it's about our patient on the table. Their patient safety comes first and the quality of care that they're receiving. So let's put pride aside both ends and just take care of the patient. So that has been my mantra, and that's how I go with it. But those conversations can be scary sometimes.
Right. No, so, and I hear a little accent there, so I'm gonna get into that so people can know, where's Ebow from?
Ebow is originally from Ghana. It's the best country in Africa, West Africa. And I know my Nigerians friend will come over here and say Nigerians better, but we all know Ghana is the gateway to Africa. So,
Okay,
and we got
okay.
the best jollof rice.
So coming from Ghana and coming here with sterile processing, not sterile processing, was surgical tech your first job here?
No. Mm-mm.
So how was that adjustment? And that's what I'm trying to get, the early Ebo. So you came from Ghana, you're here. What was what was your first initial, like, I want to come to America to do this?
So, starting from Baby Ebo, Baby Ebo did not want to come to America. Baby Ebo had no choice. His parents made him come here. And if you know anything about African family, you're either going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer.
Okay.
And that was the same with my family. Went through school to be a doctor. At the end of it, it wasn't for me. I was no doctor material.
Okay.
And some of you in the field can see me sometimes differently, thinking I'm an extrovert type A person. No, that's not the real Ebo. You only see me like that because I know a lot about the subject and I'm passionate about, so I feel comfortable talking about that. But other than
Right.
that, I don't like people. Not that I don't like people, but I cannot stand. I am an introvert by nature. So even
Okay.
after this podcast, I have to go sit somewhere and recover. That is the evil. So going through the medical thing, my first thing in healthcare was actually as a combat medic in the army and as an EMT paramedic in real life.
Okay.
Then I did the volunteer fire department as a firefighter and paramedic for some time. I still volunteer. So that was my foray into healthcare. Then, for some reason, I ended up as a surgical tech. I do not know how exactly it happened. I think it was time to re up for the army, and I somehow reclassed to surgical tech, and that is how it happened. And one thing about the military surgical techs, it's not surgical techs and it's not sterile processing. You
Yeah.
do both.
Yes, it's one job.
It's one job. You use your instrument, you carry your instrument on your head, you take it, and you go ahead and reprocess your own instrument. That is how it started. So, in civilian life, when I got CST and started working in civilian life as a search tech, it was completely different. But I still have some background knowledge about surgical tech. That is why in the beginning I said it was a learning curve, but it wasn't as a steep learning curve as it was because I had that background knowledge from the military. So that is how I ended up in surgical tech. I just fell into the role, just like I fell into CSP.
All right. And so for my people watching, we're gonna get there, but I don't want to leave anybody out. If you're in the comments or you're on the live, comment the word fellow, because Evo's gonna tell us about that journey, and we're gonna get to what that means for him. But comment the word fellow in the comments so you can be entered in our drawing for tonight's gift card. Just comment the word fellow. Like I said, when the time of that conversation come, you'll know what we mean by that, because that alone is a remarkable journey that he's going to tell you about. But I just want to make sure I go ahead and start getting y'all in the comments now so y'all can get entered into the drawing. All right. So, and I wanted to say that to you when you said your story there, because it's so many parallels. Like I went same. I was a scrub tech, went down CS, never left, Army. I'm now a volunteer firefighter. We do all of these things. I think it's just our nature. I don't know what it is. Like, I think it's that helping people, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but it's like everybody I talked to that was a military person, we follow kind of the same path and we do a lot of the same things. And that's funny that when you said volunteer firefighter, I just like, hey, that sounds like my story all over again. But that's the kind of thing that I know that happens out there. So everybody, we're here with Ebow. Ebow, we're going to take a quick commercial. And when we come back, we're going to get to what were those steps like, going from a stage one, tech one, to the next step, and how that challenge presented itself. So family, right after this commercial, we'll be right back with Ebow. Family, you saw it again right there. Incision.care. Make sure you go request your demo. It will actually change the way you look at the education for sterile processing. Again, it's 21 modules that cover the 6 major facets of sterile processing. And while you're there, you may learn about some new stuff that's coming out. I know they were working on even scopes and all of this stuff. Great program. Definitely reach out to them to talk about it. Ebo, so we went from a scrub tech to a sterile processor tech. That tech one position, when you got downstairs and they were like, hey, this is what I need you to do. There's a decon portion back here. There's a prep and pack portion over here. There's a sterilization portion over here. There's sterile storage. There's case carts. There's transport. And they throwing all this stuff at you. And you're like, wait, why did I decide to come down here? When that happens, sir, where did you actually start seeing uh, any kind of progression? Did you see where it could be progression or anything like that? Shamu, welcome. I see you there.
Yes. So
Juan, I see you got people here for you, Ebo. I see Juan. I see Shamu. Carol is coming. Everybody's here for you, sir. Carol said, "Thank goodness that you have all had the experiences through the military that you had. We need more well-rounded folks like you both in our world." Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Uh, so that transition and you seeing all of this stuff happen for a tech one, and now this is at the basic tech level. Did you see at that time, like, I don't know if this is going to be the path I stay on? Like, did you envision it?
no, no, not really. As a tech one, and my background and where I'm from, I'm always told to work hard. So
Okay.
I go above and beyond and work hard. And one of my first shock was being overwhelmed by the volume and pace in CSP. As surgical techs, we are also under constant pressure to turn over the room. So sometimes we even forget, not that we even forget, we do not perform point of use treatment. We just pack everything into the case cut and shove it down the elevator. Sometimes we have 3, 4 case carts in the elevator to send down.
I want to ask a question about that right there since you brought it up. The pressure to turn over and get the room ready versus the pressures of sterile processing. How do they compare?
They are exactly the same, but
Okay.
one carries more risk than the other.
And I wanted to bring that out because I know that when something happens, and every good leader in this room that's gone through leaderships and had different types of leaderships, we've had this conversation. I've heard this conversation with people. Oh, the OR is like that when they call downstairs because they're under a lot of pressure. They got the doctor screaming at them, the nurses, they're under a lot of pressure. We hear that, but like you're
We just
under
put
pressure
under the
downstairs.
pressure to turn over that
Yeah,
tray.
our pressure is pressure too. So I wanted to, from somebody who's done it, I just wanted to get the comparison of what those two pressures look like. Because for a tech one, they're not going to understand the pressures of a scrub tech upstairs. You know what I'm
No,
saying? They haven't been there long enough to understand that type of pressure. So when we're saying these things or we're trying to make the comparison, it's like, does it really compare?
it's really one and the same. We all under immense pressure. But even though we are all under immense pressure, the pressure in CSP carries more risk than the pressure in the OR to turn over the room. Because guess what? You're under the pressure in the OR to turn over the room. You may skip point of use treatment. That is additional work for your CSP counterparts to perform. And if a CSP technician not paying attention miss any steps in decontam and it's not caught in the assembly area, that opens the patient to possibly having a foreign body or foreign material in there fall into them during the surgery. I'm not going to use the word surgical site infection because surgical site infection is multifactorial. You cannot always link it to a single instrument. There are environmental causes and all the different items involved, but there's that potential for surgical site infection also. But the main concern is a foreign body should not be anywhere near a sterile field. So
Okay. All right. So, as we were stating, you were saying that you didn't see it as a long term, like you were going to be here when you were a tech one. What clicked? What clicked and said, "Hey, I might want to become a tech 2, 3, 4." What clicked? What happened?
So what happened was I left my initial initial entry level into CSP
Uh-huh.
and went over to a different place. And just then and then I was thrown into a leadership role as a tech 3 lead tech. I'm like, this feels different.
Okay.
During the week, I was still a technician 3. team leader, working alongside everybody. But on the weekend, I take weekend call, and when the supervisor is not around, guess what, Ebo? You it.
Okay.
So that is where I had that change of mindset. And that is where I started actually paying extreme attention to the leaders around me and decided, okay, this is the kind of leader I want. This is not the kind of leader I want. I can definitely do better than this person. So maybe I should think about making this a full time and actually enacting the changes that I want to see. So that is where, so it did not click until I actually had a baby leadership role.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you were a Tech 1. You left that facility to go to another one. And because of their experience and background that you had at this one, you went straight from a Tech 1 to a Tech 3 leadership role.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Now,
skipped grades.
I feel like family, that's not how it's normally done. So just so everybody's clear, that's not how it's normally done, but there are
Exceptions.
things that happen that put you in these positions. Hence why I wrote the first book I wrote, Time to Talk. What they didn't tell me, because that is one of those things they don't tell you. If you're short staffed and you have some experience, you may be thrown into a leadership role, and with no blueprint on what to do other than the people. Like he said, I even quote that a couple of times. Like, no matter the leadership that you had, whether it was good or bad, you learn something from both.
Yes, you
You
did.
learn, you take the parts you need over here, and you be like, hey, I'm never gonna do that. It's like, so you kind of learn from what you saw, got thrown into a leadership position, and then what? Uh-oh. Sharon said Navy. Nah, this Army over here. We got all Army in here, Sharon. We
Go
got
Army.
It's all Army over here. See, go Army. I see it. So in that leadership role, your first leadership role with the limited experience you had in sterile processing, how was it?
Oh, I made a whole lot of mistakes.
Okay.
And I'm still making mistakes.
Okay.
The only difference between then and now is I'm learning from my mistakes and not repeating them.
I want everybody to understand what he just said. Early on, making those mistakes, not knowing how to correct them or learn from them, to now, I may make a mistake, but I'm learning from that mistake and not repeating it. That's the growth that took place. Sharon Green Golden said, you must still take the responsibility for knowing what and who you are leading. Patient.
Yeah.
So understanding that that's, the growth, understanding that you went through that growth. At this point, you are now a lead, and you make those mistakes. No accountability because, hey, y'all put me here and I'm doing this thing. What were you certified at this time, or was there any certifications or anything offered at this time?
Oh yeah, at this time I was dual certified with both CBSPD and HSPA HM at that time. I
Okay.
was both CRCST and CSPDT, and I made that decision to go one route because I got tired of keeping track of both certifications.
Okay.
So I chose one that at least was easier for me because I can just reset every year instead of waiting for some time, then do that. Knowing my history, I'm a millennial. Everybody knows what millennials are famous for. We jump from one place to other. We don't stay at one place for 5 years, so sometimes it becomes difficult to keep track of CEUs for that long. So that's
Okay.
what made my decision to move to one certification body. So at that time, I had my CRCST and my CHL.
Okay. So you did have the leadership under your belt and you had your basic certification. So you were at least somewhat familiar with whatever the leadership principles were as taught in the book.
Mm-hmm. I'm a
So,
good player.
so So compile that with the leadership that you had, what the book was telling you. You got thrown in a leadership position, and you was flying by the seat of your pants.
Oh, yeah.
So how long did you stay in that position?
Oh, I stayed in that position for about 3 years before I moved on to another place, and that was the longest I've stayed in a single CSP department. Please, leaders listening, don't take any of this on your technicians, but I'm one of those leaders that believes in personal and career growth. We all know about the limited advancement in our various departments. If your technician is going to go somewhere to advance professionally, mentor them, guide them, and let them go. Let them go sit down. So I was in that role for 3 years, and during that period, I learned a lot about myself and my leadership ability. Even from year 1 up to year 3 in that role, I could see a difference in how I interacted with people. Year 1, brand new CHO leader in that role, Ebow was a hardhead. I don't take disrespect from anybody, and I still do not. But how I react and respond to that now is different from how I did it back then. But then you see my young, inexperienced millennial self popping up and say something that I might regret in the later on. Back then, when I'm sending an email, there's no proofreading. In that emotional state, type that email and hit send. Now, I don't even type the email. If I'm going to type the email, I will not put anything in the to column. Just type the email and let it sit in the draft. Come back later and rewrite that email, but get your point across professionally.
I'm going to say somebody else told me that trick a couple of years back. They was like, because we are human, and that's what this show is about, that human element of growing within a department. And when you first write that initial email and you put everything in it, and then you go back and read it, and you was like, yeah, you was about to be fired. Like, you was about to be fired, but like you said, not addressing it to anybody, but you do get those thoughts out your head. You do express yourself, and you come back to it, and it's like, all right, now the professional me, the calm me wouldn't have sent this email. So now let me, write this the right way. So that is one of those tricks for anybody listening. That is one of those tricks that will save you some headache, some time out of the office and stuff like that. Definitely take the time to draft it if you need to, just to get it out. But then, don't send it. Let it sit there, go back later, read it, and that's a trick that I've heard people use, and it said that it's effective because I've done it. It's effective. So Ebow,
even now we have AI tools that can help you with that. Rewrite this professionally for me. ChatGPT, I saved my behind.
It'll take out the parts you're not supposed to say because that won't let you send the email that way. So yeah. Hey, Ebow, we're gonna take another quick commercial, sir, and when we come back, we're gonna get from how you were that supervisor to your first management role. We're going to get into that a little bit right after this commercial.
In a world overflowing with noise, are you truly being heard? Or better yet, are you truly listening? Kenneth Campbell, industry author and expert in sterilization, is back with his latest book, Learn to Listen, so others are willing to talk. This book isn't just about hearing words, it's about understanding, connecting, and building trust. Whether you're leading a team, navigating relationships, or simply striving for better conversations, these practical strategies will transform the way you communicate. Imagine a world where every conversation leads to deeper connections, resolved conflicts, and greater influence. It's possible when you learn to listen. Are you ready to elevate your communication and create meaningful relationships? Learn to listen so others are willing to talk. Available now.
That's the first time you saw that. I'm assuming that you see that commercial, Ebow. You saw that. Everybody, I appreciate the love I've been getting so far on the new book. Definitely pick up your copy. I know y'all gonna see me in Kentucky. Signatures on deck. I applaud you. Thank you. Grab your copy now. It's available for pre-order. I'm releasing worldwide. April 12th will be my drop date, but you can get the pre-order now. So learn to listen so others are willing to talk, intentional conversation, and actual meaningful conversation. So back to you, Ebow. You're in this role 3 years, supervisor, got thrown in it, learning as you go. Hey, Rashawn, how are you? Learning as you go, and flying by the seat of your pants. We said that. What made you step into the next role?
Thank you. So, point of correction there, I was a lead tech, not a supervisor yet.
Okay. Lead tech. Okay.
So, in that lead tech role, I saw a supervisor role open up. I interviewed for that role. I personally think I did really great, and I was the most qualified candidate for that role. But as it always happened when you're overconfident, I did not get that role. And me being me, I always reach out for feedback, because without feedback, we cannot grow. So reach out for feedback, and that great leader in our industry basically let me know why and how I did not get that role, and offered a suggestion for me.
Okay.
My demeanor wasn't cut out for a supervisor role at that time. So the advice given was go the educator route, and later on, if you're still up for it, go into the management route. So I took that advice to heart and got myself into an educator role. The educator role was easy for me because I love to teach, especially if it's something that I'm passionate about. I believe in the mantra, see one, do one, teach one. And an educator role, depending on where you are, believe it or not, our sterile processing technicians are really smart, and they will challenge you and make you know that they are smarter than you. So as the educator, I never wanted that to happen to me. So I was constantly studying, making sure I know all the requirements and guidelines and regulations and all that, everything that pertains to sterile processing. I make sure that I'm there, know about it. If not in depth, at least I have the surface knowledge about it, because some of my technicians will actually ask me a question just to see whether I know what I'm talking about. And one thing I learned deeply is to say, you know what, I do not know that. Let me research that and get back to you. And that actually is well received than talking some nonsense.
Yeah, I just want to highlight something that you said there, just for the family watching. The most important advice he got during that whole thing was that this is not the time for you for this particular role. And as leaders, I want us to make sure that we're doing the same things. Just because somebody may have the qualifications on paper, they may not be ready yet. And it's okay. You have to make sure that we're putting the right people in the right seat on the bus to make sure that your departments are running the right way. And I know people say this all the time because they run into them, people who probably shouldn't have those positions. And it's not me for me to say that they shouldn't have it. It's how they carry the position and what happens while they're in that position that lets you know that some people are not ready for these positions. But we as leaders should actually be confident enough and bold enough, like Ebow said, when he reached out to as to why, they said, yes, you are qualified, but you're not right for this right now. Try this. And obviously it worked because he's now worked his way through all these challenges, but it was the information that was given, the advice that was given that put him on this path. So don't be afraid to, say what should be said and not, sugarcoat it, because you get managers who grow into roles that never got that initial base piece because somebody was, hey, you got it on paper. Hey, go be a manager. And that's not how that is all the time. So sorry about that, but I just had, because you said it and you said somebody put you on this path by telling you at that moment you weren't ready for that position. Try this instead. And we went from lead tech to educator. Mm-hmm. So not lead tech, supervisor, manager, it's lead tech to educator. So now as an educator, so you got the educator. Again, Sharon Grigo said everyone is not a leader, they have to own it. And that's the point I'm trying to make, Sharon, is that we get people who will push these people in these positions, and it's just because of what's on that piece of paper. Like there's a whole lot of initials, and I think Jesse alluded to this last week. There's a whole lot of initials and all this stuff, and people not putting in the work. I get, and I understand that you can go and get your certifications year one. You can get all of them. But if you don't have the experience behind any of that, then, they're just initials on paper at that point. I mean, but I'm just saying, Ebow. But you put in the work, though. You put in the work. Now that first leadership role that was given to you, we're not gonna sugarcoat past that. You said that yourself. Like Sharon says, having a license doesn't really mean you can drive any or all cars. I heard Lil Wayne say something like that, and it stuck with me. You are very correct, because just because you have a regular driver's license don't mean it's a CDL. Don't do it to yourself. That's a whole different thing. But again, that's the advice, and I just wanted to make sure we highlighted that, because there are leaders out here being faced with some of these same decisions now because we're short-staffed and they need leadership and they need these extra bodies. But some people may not just be ready. But again, he gave you that advice. You went the educator route. You love to teach anyway. So that experience was where you wanted to go.
Yep. So I think I excelled in that role. We built a training program, and it was one of those sought after extension program, to the point that was being invited to community college to offer insight on store processing and the interview process. Okay. And when the time came, candidates actually had to interview to be granted a spot in our extension program. That was how successful our extension program was. And that extension program also served as a recruiting tool, because during that extension process, the best technicians or the best students get offered the position before they're even done with the extension hours.
Nice.
So I think I excel in that role. Unfortunately, I had to leave that role and pick up another educator role somewhere else. Then during that time, I got a call. Hey, a manager position has opened. You really excelled in your educator role. How about you interview for this role, and let's get you into the management role. You're qualified. You know your stuff. Let's get this done. And that was my first foray into the actual CS management.
So, and this is just, there's nothing against your decision, but if you enjoyed the teaching and you like that part and being able to be the base foundation for Texan coming through, why did you leave that role? Like, why did the manager role attract you to come toward it?
So, one of the challenges I experienced in the educator role was education and productivity. Education and production. If I'm always taking technicians off the field for in-services, I'm always going to backhead with the manager or the supervisor, because there will be nobody on the field assembling the trays, sterilizing the trays. There'll be no production going on.
Right.
So my rationale was that as a manager, I will have some semblance of control over the education process, because I am a firm believer that most of our quality deficiencies that we have in our departments can be solved by education
Okay.
and training.
I want to get to this from you just so you can give your thoughts on it. Knowledge and Nonsense says it's more common than many know for a manager or director to step into the role of an educator or vendor, and it's a great fit. You did the opposite. You went from educator to manager.
And I'll gladly go back to being an educator.
Hey, knowing what we know now, but
management is not for everybody.
That is true. Very
like
true.
I
That
said earlier, I'm not a really people person. So I think I've been successful in that role to some extent. And like I stated earlier, I'm still learning. Leadership is a learning process. Nobody is an expert in leadership. We are all students in leadership. So I'm still making mistakes. I'm still learning. Even as the director, I'm not always successful. But like I stated earlier, I learned from that and move forward with that. Yes, I personally love education and quality assurance in those roles, because I have a control over a lot and I can make real difference. Sterile processing management, sterile processing director, let me be honest with everybody, it's not as easy as some of us make it look.
That is true.
And I see some people in those roles, so I'm like, they make it sound really easy. I bet I could do that.
And most say that after they've been in a management position, but before that, they all want to be a manager or the director. And that is very true too. You want to be in those roles until you actually have to be in that role. And that's where it comes in that you see, hey, just because it's the title, it might not be, like you said, there's a lot to it than what people think. So I appreciate you for saying that part. Managing others is not as sexy as people think. That is true. That is very true. So now you're in management and you're growing through HSPA. And I want to touch on this because it's a very important part of your journey. I know that's Denard. HSPA presented you with an opportunity to be what we call a fellow. And I want to touch on that story because when you told me the story, I was like, what? But it inspired me. So we'll get to my inspiration later. But what did that journey look like for you? Tell people what that is. Let's talk about what a fellow is first. Do that.
So HSPA Fellowship, and I will be remiss if I do not recognize Miss Sharon Green Golden. She is on here with us. She is one of our HSPA Fellows. Much respect to you, ma'am, and thank you for your service to the industry. Really appreciate it. So before the HSP Fellowship, I was CRCST, CIS, CHL, and finally got my CER when the test first came out. I was one of those pilot testers. So now I have my Grand Slam. I'm getting bored. There's nothing else to do. So I decided to look into HSP Fellow. HSP Fellowship to me is more than just a title. It is a milestone that actually represents everything that I have worked for in this industry. For me, it's also a form of earning a seat at the table, because the fellowship is the highest recognition that one can get in our industry. And many have tried, but not many has been successful. And I've shared my story here before. I wasn't successful the past few times that I tried, but the word is perseverance and wanting it more than anything. And that is
so right there, this is not a dig at you, but to people who are thinking about this, give them that number that you told me. No, I'm saying it to say you just said many have tried and some were not successful, which means that some people gave up. And that's why I'm putting it in terms like that. I'm putting it in terms like that because if you get that paper rejected one time and you give up, then
I got it rejected at least 5 times and I gave up. I'm not going to sit here and be all high and mighty that it was an easy process for me. It wasn't. I gave up, gave it a rest for about a year. Then I was in my hospital bed one time. I'm like, I still have something that I haven't finished. So in that hospital bed, I shot an email to the fellowship committee. I was like, hey, I'm going to restart the process. Let's do this again. Submitted it, and guess what? Back at ya. It does not meet our standard.
So for everybody who don't know, what he's referring to is that what happens is you have to apply to be able to write for fellowship. You have to apply. You get accepted, then you can start writing. Once you finish that paper after all your hard work, you turn it in and it gets reviewed. And per the committee, if it does not meet the standard, you get it back. And you have to redo some things. So he went through that process about 5 times and he said, no, I'm not doing it no more. y'all done told me 5 times no. He took a break. And I like his tenacity, though. And this is what made this story resonate with me, because he was like just laying there one day, like, look, I don't leave stuff unfinished. So therefore, I want to continue. And he goes on. And again, they sent it back. So go ahead, sir.
Yep. And like you said, it's not just about any research.
Yes.
It has to be about a project that you've actually participated in or have a first-hand knowledge of. So you cannot just go in there and be like, okay, this is this. And even during the application process, you have to submit your topic and your draft for it to be even approved. So if for those of us that are interested in obtaining that in the future, please do not just start writing your paper.
Please don't.
It has to be approved first before you can start writing it and talking about it. And you also have to discuss it with the committee. Anybody can write a paper, or anybody, as it is right now, can pay somebody to write a paper for them. So there's also an interview process involved to make sure that you actually have a first-hand knowledge. You know what you're talking about in your paper.
Here goes Sharon Green Golden says, I was a part of that committee, and it's all about putting out a quality paper. So yes, as Ebow alluded to, it's just not writing a paper on anything. It's a lot of research, and I can tell you, I'm in the process. I turned my paper in about a year or so ago, and I can say it's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do. And I write books. Right, so like I'm on my second book, but that paper took a lot out of me, and it was crazy. Yeah, from last week. Type fellow in the comments. But so Ebow, when we were walking around, I want to say, did you give it to me in Vegas?
Yep. No, it wasn't Vegas.
Or was it Nashville?
It was Nashville.
We was walking around Nashville, and the family, I'm gonna get to this story, and then we're gonna get to our drawing here in a minute. We were walking around Nashville, and Ebow's a good friend, so I go to give him a handshake, and this is what he does to me. Go ahead and show him, Ebow. Go ahead. He does that motion, and he gives me this. So this is what the challenge was for me. It was to, hey, you got something left for the business, you need to go and do it. So that spark, and then not to be outdone. So everybody, my challenge is coming too. I got mine ready. My challenge is coming. So if you see us out there and you get the challenges on you at that point, but the challenge was accepted. I did go through that process. Like I said, it is a long process. And like Sharon said, it's about quality. So it's not about just rushing, going home and thinking you can just write a 10-page paper and you be a fellow the next day. Sharon Green Golden can tell you it's not that simple. Ebow has just told you it's not that simple. So definitely, if it's something that you're interested in, definitely reach out and look into it and try to get into that group. To his point, I think we did the math. There's over 100,000 or so sterile processing techs. There are 20 fellows. There's only 20. So you do the math. I think it's like 0.00002 or something like that. Ebow, Sharon said she's looking for her coin. So
I got you, man.
So definitely looking into that direction. Ebow, going through your whole processes. I know you went from lead to educator to manager to director, fellow. All these things took place in the middle of there. What was the hardest part of this journey for you?
The hardest part of this journey is staying grounded. I say that to say that when some of us get us all these acronyms after our names, we tend to be on top of the world and think we know everything. I do not know everything. I'm still working on that. So even though I'm a fellow and that's the highest honor that we can get in this industry, that does not mean that I'm better than a brand new technician coming into the field. Guess what? The brand new technician can still teach me something about the field that I may have overlooked in my years of in the field. I say I'm a baby in the field compared to some of us already in the field, but because we've been in this field so long, we might be blinded to some of the processes that we are performing, and we take a fresh eye of a new technician coming in to notice some of these stuff. So the fact that I'm a fellow doesn't mean that what Ebow says is that. I'm still a 7 leader. I still appreciate talking to my staff, taking care of them. So the hardest part was staying grounded and humble. And I love that I'm an introvert. That has helped me a lot to not be out there as flashy as I want to be. So
Hey, I take that and I like that because Sharon Green Golden said something similar last week on the show where she says even she's still learning stuff. And many in this business look at her as like, hey, the greatest of all. And
it's
I
the
mean,
golden sterile processor.
she's mentored me as well. So I appreciate even her saying, hey, I still learn stuff. And we see her speak and do all these things, but still learning. So it is all about, like you said, staying grounded, staying learning, no matter what your title is, no matter how much education you got in this business, because a regulation can change tomorrow. A process could change tomorrow. And if you're stuck in that mindset, you may miss something. Juan said he's working on his paper now. Okay. Sharon said, take the challenge. I saw it come up. She said, take the challenge, write a paper. You can succeed even if it just takes 5 tries. Just do it. So again, we learn every day. It's about striving to be better. And that's what this is all about. Getting from that shy introvert, extrovert tech 1 to the director fellow that we are here today. Ebow, it's your show, sir. So I'm going to have you count us down. Hey, give you a few more seconds. Write fellow in the comment. If you want to be entered into the drawing for today, write fellow in the comment. We'll be doing that drawing here in just a second. We're going to give you a few seconds just to try to get everybody in there and making sure that we all give everybody a chance to win. Ebow, that has been great, sir. I love the journey. again, by putting that coin in my hand, you made me have to go and figure out a topic and get my paper started, and I finally got it turned in. So, hey, we're gonna see what happens. But I appreciate you seeing the same thing, like Sharon said, seeing something in somebody and say, let's do the challenge. Let's, accept the challenge and just go forward and do it. So I appreciate you for lighting that fire. And, hopefully, when I see you in Kentucky, it'll be under different circumstances, but, we'll see what happens. Family, we're going to go to commercial. And when we come back, we'll do the drawing and crown this week's winner. I'll see y'all. Come back right after this commercial. As y'all saw it, again, incision.care. Make sure you go there and request a demo. Tell them Time to Talk sent you, and definitely reach out and see how that can help your departments. Ebow, we gave everybody time. It is now that time, sir. You can count us down, and let's get this drawing done, sir.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Derek Combs is our winner. I like it a lot. Hey, he's never gonna let us hear the end of this. He's never gonna let us hear it. Denard is our winner. Denard, I see you here, sir. As if you know the rules, come back next week. In the comments, put "I am here," and you will receive your gift card, sir. Appreciate you for showing. I know you got the win this week. So, family, we had a great show with Ebow talking us through, the stages of his growth, the challenges that he saw, and the inspiration that he drew from, like you said, all managers, whether they were good or bad. He drew something from all of them that helped him become the person he was. He made mistakes, owned them, weren't afraid of those mistakes, and now is learning through those mistakes as we speak. Even as a director, he admitted it from himself. Even as a director, he makes mistakes, but he learns from that mistake and knows not to repeat it again. So for all of us, whether you're a frontline tech or in leadership, it is okay not to be perfect. Nobody expects you to be. It's what you do after that moment that defines the rest for everybody. Because if you're a leader, you have frontline looking at you, trying to see that example. As he said, I had leaders that I saw stuff in that I didn't want to be when I was a leader. I didn't want those characteristics. So you have people watching you, guiding their career the same way. And if you're a frontline tech, take the good parts of that leadership, because there are good things that all of us do well. There's some things that we don't. Take the parts that you need and grow with it, and then keep going. As Ebow said, it fell in his lap. He was, hey, I went from a lead to an educator, then back to management. And there's no perfect way to do that. So just make sure that you follow the steps that's best for you. And as always, seek a mentor, seek guidance. We are all here. Ebow, how can people find you?
The only social media I use is LinkedIn. So, and the LinkedIn is Ebow HS. No fancy acronyms behind my name, just Ebow HS. Let's do it. So I see the question in there, what's next for Ebow? I want to answer that real quick. So I've realized that even as a sterile processing director, I still do not have the power to enact those seismic changes that we all seek in this industry. So Ebow might be getting out of sterile processing in the next few years to actually go into the C-suite, where I can actually make some well-needed changes. Most of our leaders know when it comes to budgeting, we always fighting with other departments for capital money dollars. So we need those leaders in that room on that big table to actually drive the interest of sterile processing. And not only when Joint Commission or any accredited agency comes in here and knock on our door and find something wrong with our department, that is when that knee-jerk reaction comes in. We have to proactively do that, and that is my goal, to get in that room, looking at a chief patient safety officer or a chief quality officer. In that role, I do not want the president. That is too much work.
Hey, that's actually a good plan. I mean, I think that's where that's leading the change, as Carol said. That's leading the change, and being a part of that is, where we should aspire to be. But you say you're definitely headed that direction. Me, I went the vendor route. So some of us changed the different ways, and we do it the way we're gonna do it. Family, this has been a great talk with Ebow. You can look for him in Kentucky. If Juan, make sure you go see him. Miss Green Golden, make sure you go see him.
No, Miss Green Golden, I will find her.
Oh, you're gonna find her. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, hey, if he's walking around and you feel that corner of your hand, the challenge has been given. And don't forget, I have mine too. So the challenges will be passed out, and then it's on you. And we're gonna try to keep this thing moving forward. Our family, as we always do, I appreciate you all for being here. Again, next week, same time, same place. Y'all know what time it is next week? I can go ahead and say it. It is trivia time. It is trivia time. Everybody's been here for trivia. I got a couple of the winners in the room right now. So y'all know what time it is with trivia time. And I made it a little bit more quicker this time. So come on out. Y'all heard? Y'all, I can go ahead and say it here for y'all. Say it. $750 first place. $500 second place. $250 third place. Like I said, some of the winners have been here in the room, so they are here. They know what it is. 750, 750, 500, 250. If you've been here, you know it. Let's do it. Let's get this money. Hey, I'll see y'all next week. Ebow, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Family, I'll see y'all same time next week. Let's do it again so I can use it at conference. Thank y'all. I'll see you later, sir.
Thank you.